Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I have so much to say. I've taken notes, but I'm going to try to make this video not ridiculously long. Bible Girl is back. I need to come up with some kind of song because I have Bible Girl episodes on my channel, but I was like, you know what? It's time for another Bible Girl. So, Bible Girl is a series where I just talk to you guys about the Bible because it's the best book on earth. And yeah, today's episode is going to be about suffering and being admirable to God, because I think that it's lacking in 2023. People, I find, are most worried about their own goals in life, and they're not worried about pleasing God. I think it matters less to God how amazing you are. He does not care about how much money you have. And he doesn't care that much about your own self-righteousness. I mean, your own self-desires. He is kind of looking at you in comparison to how much you love him. And that's just the truth of the matter. And I think that we'd be better people on earth if more of us, our goals and what we strove for every day when we woke up is, how can I get closer? How can I get closer to someone who's pleasing to God? Where God can say, wow, look at my and your name, you know? And I think that if we spoke about it more often, that like I'm trying to do, it would be in the front of our minds. There's so much on the internet these days. I will continue to make travel videos. Obviously, I'm on a mission to visit every country in the world. There's tons of travel videos coming, but that's not the point of life. The point of life is not to just, oh look guys, I'm in a little background music. I'm in Japan, and I'm in Tokyo, and I'm in Paris, and look at me. I'm in Dubai, and look at me. I mean, it's entertaining, and I will continue to make travel videos for sure, but it's just not the point of life. So anyways, I want to talk about something meaningful today. If you're interested in listening, I study the Bible every day of my life. This is not me talking from my own self-righteousness. This is not me talking from my own anything. I'm getting this from the Bible, and it's stuff God teaches me about every day, and I want to share it. So I'm going to try not to be painfully long. I set a timer. I don't want to drudge on forever, but I do want to hit a lot of key points. I've got my notes here. And so the two things I'm going to be talking about on this video are why God allows suffering, which I kind of touched on before, but this is a different angle, and why God sometimes likes when we suffer. Keep watching. And I'm going to talk about being admirable to God. How can you be admirable to God? Someone God looks at and is like, wow, that's my so-and-so. That's my boy. That's my man. And I think that that is a reason we should wake up every day and strive for that, not our own selfish wants. Waking up every day thinking about what you don't have and what you don't have. That's a recipe for depression, and that's a recipe for a pathetic life. I will give biblical examples, and God admires people the most who are out saying, how today can I be more pleasing to God? So that's what I do. At least I try to weed my life and pull it apart and be like, man, I need to do better. I need to be somebody who God is looking at and saying, that is my daughter, that's my servant. So that's what I'll be talking about today. I'll be talking about the book of Matthew, and I'll be reading from the book of Job, he's kind of the centerpiece of this video. I love Job. I could make 10 million videos about Job. So let's get into the video. And also, before I start the video, I want to tell you guys that I'm in Japan, and I'm making these really, really delicious snack boxes for you guys. It's a way I power my travels, especially my goal to visit every country in the world. And I send you guys delicious snacks from Japan. I literally chock a box full of delicious foods slash snacks from here in Japan. If you don't know, I am living in Kyoto, Japan right now, and they just have the best, most delicious foods and snacks. So I have my snack box available and it's on sale today. My matcha box, I have a matcha box where it's just a box chock full of matcha snacks if you're a matcha lover like me. And I've got a box of just miscellaneous snacks. A ton of stuff. I chock every box a little bit. Every box is a little bit different. So you get a nice little surprise to your door. And yeah, I think the boxes are so exciting to arrive because it's like a mystery box. You don't really know what you're getting, but it's great stuff. I put all my favorite stuff in there. All the stuff is delicious. And it's enough snacks to last you like a month. I put a lot of in there and it's enough for you to share with your kids and your family. So it's on sale today and my matcha box just launched as well. I'm also selling my favorite beauty products from Japan. So if you get a chance, check out my website, maryjanesworldtour.com. There's a big sale on there today and get yourself something I ship to you directly from Japan. And yeah, it's so much fun and I very much want you to go check it out and get something yeah, while I'm here in Japan. Yeah, okay, so little self plug. Now it's time to get into the video. And I want to start from the basics of why we would even listen to God and how life, okay, so yeah, I want to first explain why life is kind of like a play. It's not really real here on Earth. And so I can get into explaining everything else. I'm going to say this really briefly because can really be, someone can really dive into this more than I'm diving into it. But life on Earth is kind of like a play. It's not really real. When God created us, He created us for heaven. So there's so many people who have died and come back to life. But it also says it in the Word. There's a beautiful movie called After Death, if you want to watch that. And it's just crazy because every person who died and went to heaven, a very rare experience that you come back, but some people do. It doesn't always happen that way. And there's no way to know if that's going to be you until it happens, you know. But this is very few people that die and go to heaven and come back, or die and go to hell and come back. They have this sense that they talk about. One guy, he was in the movie. His name is Don. What's his name? It's Don something. Anyways, he was hit by a tractor trailer when he was 30. Went to heaven, came back. And he said there's this immediate sense of like, you feel like you're living for the first time. Like you feel alive. Like a lot of people think death is the end, where really death is the beginning. It's really our destination. It's where we belong. So we're not here on Earth for this. Like this is a play. This is an act. God is watching us. So are the saints and so are the angels. It says in the Word, it says in the Bible that all day long there are certain angels and certain saints being people who have died and gone to heaven. There are different positions in heaven, and some people in heaven get the job of being a judger. So literally there are different humans who have died and gone to earth, died and gone to heaven, and angels who are designated our judges. They're literally up there judging us like there's a council in heaven. All right, Stacy, look at her. She's doing this, she's doing that. She's not doing good. She's not following the word of God. She's not living. She's sinning. She's not repenting, blah, blah, blah. Or there's like, oh, wow, this person is doing great. And they're literally like talking and judging us from heaven. So that's why I say life on earth is, it's like a play. It's where God is heavily watching us to see who we are, to decide where we go. Do we spend eternity in heaven with Him, or do we, true death would be going to hell? That's why Jesus said He conquered death. You don't have to die anymore. You won't be in this earthly body, but heaven is eternal, where hell, that's true death, right? You don't want to go to hell. So he's watching us here on earth. It's like a decision maker. Do they get in? It's kind of like the SAT or applying to college or something like that. Although not everybody applies to heaven, but it's an act. We're being watched. We're being heavily watched. So, anyways, and this is going to show God who we are. So, at first, sin was the decider, which is very funny because it lasted about 10 minutes in the Garden of Eden before Adam and Eve sinned and damned us all to hell. Now, sin was our direct punishment of sin was going to hell. Jesus came here to die for us. He was the spotless lamb. And he sacrificed himself for us so that we don't have, so that we can sin and we can still go to heaven because he died for our sins. All he wants is for us to believe in him, to love him, and to try our best to be like him, which is selfless and loving. When they asked God, Moses asked God, what is the most important commandment? We've got all these commandments, but what is the most important? God said, to love me with all your heart and to love people. That is the most important commandment. And love in the word is not a feeling. God does not ask us to feel any certain way about people. He charges us to act. And he says the most important thing, the way you can be like me, is to love me, God, and love people. And love just means sacrifice. That's it. Jesus displayed love in the most perfect way, which was dying. He gave up his own life for us. So that's what it means to be a Christian. We pick up our cross every day and follow him, meaning we die to ourselves every day. Die, 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 die. Constantly says that in the Bible. Die to yourself and listen to me. Love people. Forgive people. Bless people. Don't hold grudges. Help people even if it hurts you. Always forgive. So, anyways. Earth is like an act. Let's think about it that way. It's like a play. God's watching us. It's not like a play because a play is not based on your choices. But it's like a play in that it's not real. It's just a way for God and the angels to watch us, judge us, who comes to heaven, who comes to hell. So anyways, I just wanted to preface with that. And I wanted to speak today on the book of Job because we're talking about suffering and why God might like that we suffer or that he doesn't care the same way we think he should care. And I also want to talk about being admirable to God. I know I want to be admirable to God. I want God to be like, that is my girl. That is my girl. So yeah, there's two subjects. I want to talk about being admirable, and I want to speak about Jesse, who laid at the pool of Bethesda, and I wanted to, which is in the book of John, and I want to talk about. So first, I will talk about John, the book of John. There and the man who laid at the pool of Bethesda, and this is a story about two brothers who suffered the same suffered the same exact thing. They both suffered in their hearts the same, but they went two different ways. And one brother, Simon, became a disciple who God loved and Jesus loved so much. Jesus literally went to go get him, and not begged him, but was like, I need you on my team. And one guy, Jesus basically called pathetic. Now, both of them would have went to heaven because they were believers. They were saved. They were Christians. They believed in God, let's put it that way. But Jesus was still laying out his ministry. So they both would have went to heaven. And they both were believers, but two very different paths. And one God saw as amazing, and one God saw as pathetic. So there are two brothers who grew up very poor. Very, very, very poor. And one brother was born first. This was Jesse. And he was playing outside one day and he fell from a tree. He was playing in a tree and he fell, and that fall ended his able body. He became paralyzed from the fall, and he immediately felt it that he was paralyzed from the waist down. His dad and his mom had a little bit of money, but not much. They spent all their money on doctors and witches. They even tried like witchcraft to try and get his legs working again. He was around 6 years old. They tried everything. Didn't work, didn't work, didn't work, didn't work. So they were very upset, the mom and dad. His dad's name was Zebulon. Zebulon was very upset, and he said, I want to try again for another son. Because, isn't that sad? He's like, I want someone to comfort my paralyzed son, and I want a son that can walk. So anyways, he tried for another son, and his wife died in childbirth. So his son was born, but his wife died. So now there are two sons. Jesse, who's the paralyzed one, and Simon, who was the new son, who was born because the father was disappointed his first son was paralyzed, but that son killed his mother in childbirth. So his family's suffering multiple tragedies. So basically, this is during the Roman Empire in Israel, and the Roman Empire was taxing the Israelites, the Israeli people, so much. They were being taxed like crazy that no one could sustain themselves well. Everyone was so poor. The only people living well were the tax collectors and the Romans. So, and not only were the Romans taxing the Israelis to death, but they also were just really treated them really terribly. Beat them up, spit on them. It just was crushing the Roman Empire on Israel at that time. So it was making Simon, which was the young son, and Jesse, who was paralyzed, really depressed. They lived terrible lives, extremely poor. The father was always struggling, trying to take care of two boys because his wife died, and the father ended up dying as well from just being tired and endless work, you know? So these are two very sad boys. And Jesse started to lose hope, while Simon never lost hope and never complained. He said, I'm going to do something about this. So he joined the group called the Zealots. The Zealots were extremely murderous. It was a cult. The Zealots were a cult, and they believed they were doing God's work, but they weren't. How popular is that in 2023? So many people who say, I'm doing God's work, and they're not. But anyways, he joined the Zealots because he saw it was his way to do something. He never fell into, oh, sadness. Oh, woe is me. Oh my gosh, my life is so bad. He always saw, I have to do something about this. I'm going to use my life saving my family, saving my brother, saving the world. And his brother would always just say, we're doomed. Oh my God, life is terrible. So, but he was also paralyzed, so you can understand. But still, that's not how God works. He's not like, oh, you're paralyzed. So his brothers suffered the same pain in their hearts. They did. Especially the other brother, Simon, who almost fell depressed because he was responsible for his mother's death. His mother died giving birth to him, so he could have very easily kept that heaviness with him, but he never did. He always decided, I'm going to use all this pain I've been through, I'm going to use all this hurt, and I'm going to turn it into power, and I'm going to do something about this. So he joined the Zealots, which was an underground murder group. They went out and killed Roman people all the time. And they were successful. They were very skilled assassins. When you joined the Zealots, you would train for years before you actually did anything. They'd train in underground tunnels to become very skilled assassins, and they'd kill people all the time. killed Romans all the time. It was they saw the Romans as the enemy, so they said, I'm doing God's work by killing the Romans. So Simon was a zealot, actually on his way to kill somebody when Jesus sent out for him. And Jesus was still putting together his disciples. He was going and gathering men that he wanted on his team, admirable men. And I keep saying God, Jesus and God are one, but separate entities. Jesus was putting together his disciples when he was here on earth, and he went after the brothers at the same time. He went after Jesse, and he went after Simon. Now, in this time where Simon became a zealot, he left his brother. He left his home to go train to be a zealot. So he left Jesse, his brother, and they were all each other had, because their parents died. He left his brother when his brother was about 15, and he said, I'm going to go fight for our people. And he left a letter. He didn't even say it. Like, he didn't tell his brother in person. His brother woke up one day and there was a piece of paper that was like, I'm leaving. I'm joining the zealots. I have to fight for our people. Jesse was very hurt by this. He's like, you leave me all by myself. So Jesse ended up going to this pool of Bethesda. So basically there was this pool in Jerusalem where sick people would go because once a year an angel would come. Once a year an angel would come and stir up the water. And the first person to get in the water would be blessed and healed. So a bunch of sick people would the pool smelled terrible. So it was like a public pool, and there was like 12 entrances to this public pool. But it was completely infested with sick people trying to be the first one to jump in, because it would be once a year and an angel would come, and the water would start bubbling, and the first person to jump in, the first, would be healed. Say you were sick, you had some disease, you had some paralyzed or whatever, and you'd be blessed. So they described the pool as smelling horrible because it was just a bunch of sick people who were just waiting to be blessed and waiting to be healed. And Jesus first went to Jesse, who was the paralyzed brother, who was not the admirable brother, you can put it that way. God saw Jesse as pathetic, and God saw Simon as admirable. Hey, he's not doing everything perfectly, but we can use. Jesus shows up. He was very strategic in exactly what he did. And first, before Jesus showed up, his brother showed up first. Simon was on his way to kill a Roman, which in his heart he believed he was following God. People like to twist scripture and use it for their own selfish desires. So the zealots used to say all the time, there's a time to heal and there's a time to break apart. There's a time to destroy, like there's a time to kill and there's a time to heal. So they took that as, oh, well, the Bible's justifying my sin. No, it definitely says not to murder in the 10 Commandments. So, and it's definitely a sin. No matter who it is, you are not supposed to kill people. So, anyways, Simon thought he was following God's law, even though he was in a death cult. So Simon heard his brother was in the city, but he had not seen his brother in 25 years, because like I said, Simon chose to join the Zealots. And when you join the Zealots, you're done with family. You are now married to the Zealots. Basically, it's your life. So he heard his brother was at the pool of Bethesda, which was not far from his murder site. He was on his way to murder a Roman, like I keep saying. He heard his brother was at the pool of Bethesda, and he said when he showed up at the pool of Bethesda, he said the smell almost made him pass out, because it's just all these pitiful people who are not doing anything with their lives, and woe is me, woe is me. Oh my gosh. And they were all sick, for sure. They were all sick of something. And Jesse was there, his brother, and his brother had just given up on everything. Oh, I'm paralyzed, and my mother died, and my father died. and I was always poor, and it's just hopeless for me. They even said a couple of people asked Jesse, "You've been here the longest. 25 years you've been here." And he said, "I know, I'm never going to get healed. Never. I'm never going to get healed. I'm never going to get to the pool first." He couldn't get in the water first. Every time the water would bubble up, somebody got in there before him. So they're like, if you've lost hope, what are you even sitting here for? You're just pathetic. So the smell that came from that pool was just horrific. And Simon showed up, and he's all muscular, and he looks good, he looks young, and he's got his knife he's about to kill somebody with. And he shows up to his brother, and he goes, "Jesse?" And he looks so old, even though they were close in age. And he looks disgusting. He looks pathetic. And he goes up to him, and he goes, "I'm your brother, Simon. Do you remember me?" And he said, "You're not Simon. You look like you're 20 years old." He's like, "I'm almost 40. And he just noticed a difference immediately between them. One looked pathetic, and he was sitting in a pool of his own waste. Ugh. And he said, "I'm your brother." And he immediately got mad. "How? You're horrible. I was sitting here for 25 years. You could have came and put me in the water. You could have helped me. I'm paralyzed. You could have came here and put me in the water. You could have picked me up. I don't get in the water first because I'm so slow. Someone always gets in before me. You mean to tell me you look like this? You look all muscular, and you haven't come here and tried to put me in the water? Picked me up and threw me in the water?" And Simon just shook his head like, "You're just pathetic." Jesus first shows up to Jesse, and he goes, "What are you doing laying here?" And the guy doesn't know who Jesus is. He's like, "Who are you and why are you talking to me?" He's like, "We'll get to that later. Why are you laying here? Hmm?" And he says, "I've been sitting here and Jesus says 25 years to like wake him up." And when he hears it come out of Jesus's mouth, it was the first time it almost convicted him, you know? And he's just like, oh my goodness, because time was slipping by him, you know, because he was so lazy. He's like, oh my gosh, it was like the first time it came to his realization. He said, oh my gosh, 25 years. He said, "You've been sitting here 25 years. And he said to Jesus, are you? And so Jesus said, "Do you want to be healed?" And I think that is such a powerful, right there, that verse is so powerful, because sometimes it needs to be said to us. Do you want to sit in your misery? Do you want to sit as this victim you painted yourself? Or do you want to be healed? Are you fighting for something? Are you striving for something? Or do you just want to sit there and blame the whole world on everything that's your fault? I mean, the legs weren't your fault, but there are people who have the same affliction as you who are not living like this. Just pathetic. And Jesus said to him, "Do you want to be healed?" And he said, "Look, I don't have time for this, okay?" And he starts to complain. "Oh, I just did it, and no one helps me. And this and this and this, and my mom and dad." And Jesus is just looking at him like this. Get up. Get up. There was no compassion. Think about this. Jesus is the most, he is the definition of compassion. No one gets more compassionate than Jesus. And Jesus had no compassion for this guy. He did not feel this much bad for him. He literally stopped him while he was complaining, and he said, "Get up." If he were if he were sinful, which he wasn't, and if he were human, he was human, but if he were more sinful like most of us, that translates to get your beep up. But he's Jesus, so he would never, you know what I mean? He would never do that. But in Jesus language, because he's kind, he said, "Get up," and cut him off from his complaining. And he said, "Pick up your bed." And he literally is looking at him like, what? Pick up your bed. And that's for me, this is what that translates to. In life, God never wants us to be victims. It doesn't matter what we're going through. God can't stand victim mentality. Maybe some bad things have happened to you. Maybe some unfair things have happened to you, like Job. Maybe some, I don't know, maybe not everything's your fault that you're in, even though most of the time it's our fault. God will never say, oh my gosh. He cannot stand that victim mentality. He can't. This is how he spoke to him. Get up and pick up your bed. And he's like, why? Why do I have to pick up my bed? Why do I? And immediately his legs were healed. Jesus did a miracle and fixed his legs and told him to get up. And he's like, what do I do now? And he's like, you're a man, go figure it out. Go figure it out. Turn away from sin, meaning turn away from your victim mentality and go be a man and figure it out. Get your butt up. And I think that's so telling about who God is. He doesn't care. God does care about us in our situations. But when we sit in our own mess and we're just pathetic and we just sit like we're these victims and like the whole world is against us and we talk about, oh man, woe is me, and we're just pathetic and sad and depressed, it's just like a big slap in God's face. It really is. It really is. And he can't stand it. And so now Jesus was going to go after Simon because Simon is the one he wanted, right? And it's so telling because they're two brothers who've been through the same thing. And God said they went through the same hurt in their heart. Now, one did get paralyzed, but they were both sad and distraught in their lives. The one was paralyzed, but the other one killed his own mother by being birthed. So there was that guilt that he could have brought on himself, and they lived in extreme poverty, and because they lived in extreme poverty, they had no respect from people. They didn't have, like, you know, they weren't prosperous, they weren't well treated by people, they had no credit in the world. Everyone looked down upon them, and they lived under the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was really mean to them, and he could have definitely taken on that victimhood. And let's get into how I feel about that in my life. But let's just stick on the book of John. The man laying at the pool of Bethesda, that's the one that Jesus was pissed off about. And so he told him to get up, and he gets up and he's going after Simon. He's trying to look for his brother. And his brother, Simon, was about to literally kill somebody. But he turned, he saw his brother walking, looking for him. His brother didn't even see him. His brother was looking for him. He turned and saw his brother walking. And he fell to his knees, like crying. He couldn't believe what he just saw, because he just visited his brother and saw him paralyzed. So he's brought to his knees. And he asked his brother, who healed you? And he said, a man named Jesus, a man named Jesus. He just healed me, and he told me to get up, and he left. So Simon goes after Jesus, like looking for him. And it took him a few days to find Jesus, but he basically stalked him and found his footsteps. And isn't that so, oh, there's so much to be learned about this beautiful story, because Jesus does want us to find him. You know what I mean? Anyways, he could have just went straight to Simon, but he let Simon go find him. Simon looked for a few days. He hid out in trees. He like stalked and asked people, where's Jesus? Where's Jesus? If you want Jesus bad enough, you're going to get him. But he's not hiding from you, though. Simon said to Jesus, he fell at his feet and he said, if you must be the Messiah. You have to be the Messiah. If I saw my brother walking and he said it was you. So he fell to his feet and he said, are you the Messiah? Are you the Son of God? And he said, yes, I am. And he said, can I ask you? Thank you so much for healing my brother. May I ask you something? Why my brother? There were so many people at that pool. And he said, how else was I going to get your attention? Jesus literally went to one and said, you're pathetic. Get up. I'll heal you, but you need to get your behind up. And he said to the other brother, who was on his way to kill somebody, but at least he was not, oh, woe is me, my life sucks. God took everything away from me, and I didn't do anything to deserve it, and everyone hates me, and no one has any respect for me, and people are so mean to me, and the Romans are just terrible, and God is allowing. Nope, not for 1 second did he complain. Never. He said, I'm gonna get up every day and I'm gonna do something about this. Now, he was off. That's the thing. God is like, okay, I can use that. I can use your courage. I can use your tenacity. I can use your positive mindset and your how you don't live in fear, you don't live in condemnation, you don't live in victimhood. I can use that. Yeah, you're off. You're not supposed to be killing people, but we can easily fix that. We can easily fix that. But that broken spirit of victimhood and you just sitting in your own waste, figuratively, but literally Jesse was sitting in his own waste. Figuratively, so many, even Christians are just sitting in victimhood and fear and things that happen to them. God tells you to leave, literally leave, let God handle everything. And he says, trust him and get up every day and seek him and not to be afraid and to be courageous. But there's so many Christians just sitting around. This happened to me and that happened to me and this happened to me. And I want you to know something. God does not feel sorry for you. He does not. You know he's in control of everything, right? He's looking at you. Like I said in the beginning, life is not really real because life here is not that real because we're destined for heaven. Earth is like a play. He wants to see who we are at our core. And the only way to know who we are is if he has us in suffering. He wants to see who you are. And you cannot use the excuse, well, oh, this happened to me and I'm this and I'm that and people hurt me and people did this to me in my childhood. God can't stand it. I'm telling you, God can't stand it. He cannot stand it. So he goes after Simon and he goes, Simon, can I see your blade? He goes, oh, the blade he was about to kill somebody with. Takes it out. Throws it in the Jordan River. That life is done. You're not a zealot anymore. You're not an assassin anymore. Okay. Instead, you're going to be my disciple. You're going to follow me around everywhere. And it was always a request. He never made them. Please follow me. Follow me. And we're going to go throughout the world spreading my word, spreading my salvation, and speaking of the kingdom of God. And he immediately said, done. Done. It's done. And he said, I knew it. And he said, I'm so happy to have you on my team. And that is more, I think this story is so powerful because there's so many people that walk, and I say Christian people because it's an oxymoron. People say they're Christian. Boom, you know you're going to heaven. You know that this life is so short, life on earth, even if you live 100 years, even if you live 100 years, that life is so short in compared to eternity. Like life is like a grain of sand and eternity is like the biggest beach on earth. And we're supposed to give everything to God. We're supposed to forgive people. We're supposed to love people. We're not supposed to hold on to the past. But there's people carrying around baggage of this happened to me and that happened to me and maybe some bad things have happened to you. Guess what God says? Let it go. Trust me. Let it go and trust me. And every day, do your best to be more like Jesus. That's why he sent him here, to be an example. You know, Jesus had to do the worst thing on earth. He had to literally get on a cross and suffer persecution from everyone. And be killed on a cross for so many people to see, hung on a cross. Ouch. And he didn't complain once. That's how we can be admirable to God. He doesn't call us to be perfect. He's like, listen, yeah, you may have sinful ways. Spend time with me and we'll fix it. We'll fix it. We will fix it. You and I will fix it. Together, we'll work on it. Maybe some bad, unfair things have happened to you. Don't worry, I'm the God of justice. Don't worry, I am the God of justice if you give it to me. God's not going to fix your problems and the things that have done wrong, people have done wrong to you, if you don't give it to him. And giving it to him literally means, here, God, it's yours. I no longer, if people have done you wrong, if bad things have happened to you, God says, give it to me. You don't worry about it anymore. You just do what I told you to do, which is love people. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm the God of justice. I'll handle it. But he doesn't handle it if you don't give it to him. He's like, okay, well, you take care of it then. You do it since you don't want to give it to me. By you being sad about it, you're literally not trusting or doing anything I'm telling you to do in the Bible that I lay out clearly. I said, forgive people who've done you wrong. I said, do good to those who hurt you. I said, put yourself beneath people. I said, trust me and do not fear. If you don't want to listen, then you handle your life. You handle it. Jesse, since you know so much, who laid at the pool of Bethesda, since you want to sit in your own waste and you want to be like, woe is the world, and you want to think about how unfair you've lived, handle it. Do you. Sit in your own waste all day long. For all I care. Do it. But he looked at Simon, his brother, who'd been through the same. God said they had the same hurt in their heart. It wasn't like one suffered more than the other. They both looked at one, be my disciple. Yeah, you're on your way to kill somebody. It's all right. We'll fix that. Give me the dagger. Here, it's in the water. That's done. Never kill anybody again and remove yourself from the zealots. He said, okay, done. Boom, done. And Jesus looked at his brother just literally a few minutes before and said, basically, you're pathetic. Get up. Get up. And the man would have gone to heaven. Definitely. For sure. But he was just looked at him like, you're pathetic. I can't do nothing with you. Back tomorrow for part 2, where I'll speak on Job and why God might even delight in our suffering. And not delight like he's a sadist, like he likes to watch us suffer, but suffering is not what it is to us, what is to God. Because like I said, this is an act. We will not suffer anymore in heaven. There will be no suffering. There will be no pain. So if God can look at you and be like, I'm going to let this person go through this because it will be better for you and better for other people, he's going to let it happen. So anyways, we're going to talk on Job. Job might be one of my favorite books in the Bible, so that will be a whole video tomorrow. But basically, in the conclusion of this video, I just want to talk about how being admirable to God. God knows, trust me, he knows everything you've been through. He knows everything down to the detail. And he says, if you give it to me. So if you say, God, such and such has done me wrong. These and these people aren't treating me right. These and this has happened to me. And that. But I give it to you. It's yours to handle, and I'll do what you say. What does your word say? It says, love people. It says, lay down your life. Don't live for yourself. It says, give your problems to me and I'll take care of them. I'm the God of justice. He loves justice. God loves justice. Give it to me. I'll handle the person who's done you wrong. I'll handle everything. All the people who've come against you, I'll deal with them. You love them. Love your enemies. If somebody, it says in the word in Matthew, if somebody strikes you on the cheek, give them the other cheek to strike, so that you'll be like your Father who's in heaven. And it says, don't hold on to anything. And always hope. Every day, wake up with a new hope. I'm excited. I know God's going to do something. I know God's going to do something. I'm excited. He told me not to fear. I don't have to worry. I don't have to fear. And I'm excited. I'm going to do what I can. And I'm going to live fearlessly because I know God's working in my life. And I know God's almighty and all powerful. And for that reason alone, I can wake up happy and excited. And I can work on being better every day. God doesn't ask us to be perfect. He asks us to follow him to every day. We've got to do it every day. All right, let me pick up my cross and follow Jesus every day. Let me pick up my cross and follow Jesus. Okay, I'm going to fall. In the word, it says he's married to the black. It says he's married to the backslider. He knows we're going to keep failing. He's like, it's all right. Just spend time with me and we'll clean you up. Spend time with me and we'll clean you up. Don't worry about it. That's what he told Mary when he went to go get her. she was the first person he revealed himself to, Jesus. And she was possessed with 7 demons. 7! 7! And he said, she's like, I've been so sinful. Which she had. She was a prostitute. That's how she got the demons. He said, don't worry about it. I took your afflictions, and I'm giving you my clean coat. You're clean. Just follow me and we'll work on you. Don't worry about trying to be perfect. We'll keep working on you. We'll keep working on you. The more time you spend with me, the more time you look at me. Don't look like me. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about your sinful ways. But I can use your heart. So I know I want to be admirable to God. God sat and talked about Job. Man, he sat in heaven like, Job is just amazing. I love Job. Can you imagine God talking about you by name? Oh my gosh. I want God to talk about me by name. I think this video is very long now, and I need to not make it so long and make it a movie. We'll do part 2 tomorrow. But know this. God sees everything that goes on. He doesn't miss anything. He's God. He cannot just look from 2 eyes like we can. Can you imagine how stupid us humans are? All we have are these 2 little eyeballs in our brain. That's all we have to know stuff. And we don't really ever know anything, okay? The only thing we can know is his word. And we think we know everything, and we think we can... We think we have better ideas than God? No. If he tells me to give... If God says, give me your problems, and I'll handle them... just worry about loving people and never give up hope. Don't live in fear and trust me. And we don't do it. We're saying that we know more than God. We're saying, well, God doesn't truly understand. That's what we're saying. If we're Christians and we believe in God. If you're atheist, obviously not. But if we say we believe in God and we say we're Christians, but we live in condemnation, victimhood, sadness, depression, then we're literally saying to God, you're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. And I don't want God to see me as pathetic. I'm sorry. He sees people as pathetic. Even the book of Job, he called people pathetic. Several times. I don't want God to call me pathetic. And I don't think you do either. Every day, get up with this sense of, man, yeah, some things have happened to me, but I'm going to give them to you, God, because he's not going to work on your problems unless you give them to me. He's not invasive. God is not invasive, okay? He says, I want those who want me. He's out for people who are out for him, okay? He's not invasive. Once you give him your problems, then he starts to handle them. But you got to give it to him, because if you want to keep your problems, go ahead. Be like Jesse and sit at the pool Bethesda and be pathetic your whole life. Yeah, maybe you'll go to heaven, but you completely failed your time on earth, and everyone in heaven was watching you. I don't want that to happen to me. Angels, saints, and God are all watching us. And I don't want to be a big pathetic mess to them. They cannot stand victim mentality. There is no excuse to live in sadness, depression, anger, none of it. It's like spitting in God's face. There's every reason to wake up hopeful, to give your problems to God, and fight the good fight.